sarcophagus of Santa Claus possibly discovered in Turkish church. Okay, a report says. Pretty cool, right? So just in the nick of time. Look what they did there in the article. Archaeologists in Turkey have discovered a sarcophagus that they believe could belong to Saint Nicholas, the generous Christian holy man who inspired Santa Claus. Researchers discovered the sarcophagus in the heart of the 7th century church built to honor jolly old Saint Nick, who was a 4th century bishop in the Mediterranean city of Myra, or Myra, M-Y-R-A, prior to his move to the North Pole. Ha, 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 right? But anyway, so the limestone sarcophagus measures 6 feet long and about 5 feet in depth, has a pitched lid, and was buried about 6 feet underground, the Heritage Daily reports. Quote, and this is from Ebru Fatima, of Hayte Mustafa Kemal University, pardon my Turkish here. Our biggest hope is to find an inscription on the sarcophagus. This would help clarify the burial contents and allow us to determine the exact period it dates from, which there's good reason to suggest that at least partially the bones of St. Nicholas might be in this sarcophagus, which is kind of cool, right? It's not only is it timely for the season, interesting and whatnot, but it did ring something sort of in my mind, which was the old paranormal trope of not disturbing the dead. Right. And so clearly it's one of those things that's probably going to be argued about for a very long time, because some people are like, well, it's archaeology, Mike. And some people are like, no, that's our ancestors and they should not be disturbed. And I can see both sides of it, but disturbing graves in the paranormal folklore is not a good thing. Okay, it's not a good thing. So put that in the back of your mind for the moment as we begin and get back to Krampus. So they did find, supposedly, the sarcophagus of Santa Claus, or St. Nicholas, in this Turkish actual what was it? The old temple that they created for Saint Nick. Okay, and there's actually let me tell you just so we are all on the same page here. I peeled this out and looked it up because I wasn't exactly sure if this was possible, that this was going to be real. So let me read you just a quick rundown on the bones of Saint Nick. So the remains of Saint Nicholas, the 4th century Christian bishop who inspired the Santa Claus tradition, have an interesting and complex history. So St. Nick died around 343 of the Common Era in Myra, modern-day Dimri, Turkey, that's D-E-M-R-E, where he served as bishop. His remains were initially interred in a church there and became a popular pilgrimage site. In 1087, Italian sailors from Bari, B-A-R-I, orchestrated what's often called a holy theft. Huh. That's an interesting term. During a period of political instability in the Byzantine Empire, they took most of Nicholas's bones from Myra to Bari, Italy, where they remain today in the Basilica di San Nicola, as you would expect. This transfer is still celebrated annually in Bari, the town. Scientific studies of the remains in Bari have revealed several interesting findings. This is according to Claude here. So the bones belong to an elderly man who was around 5'4" inches tall. They show signs of bone hardening consistent with someone who spent time in prison, which aligns with the historical accounts of Nicholas being imprisoned during Roman persecution. And carbon dating has confirmed the bones date to the 4th century of the Common Era, which it seems like this might be the remains here. But some fragments of the remains are scattered in other locations. Now, this is where this becomes problematic for the disturbing the bones, the remains of our ancestors. So a portion of the bones remained in Myra. Venice, Italy claims to have some fragments. The Church of St. Nicholas in Nicholasburg, Germany, has a finger bone attributed to St. Nick. Various other churches around Europe claim to have small relics. So, and also in a curious development in 2009, the Turkish government requested the return of St. Nicholas's remains from Bari, claiming they were wrongfully removed from their territory, though this request has not been granted. So, keep that in the back of your mind for the moment, and we'll get to Krampus in a second here and how this fits into the larger conversation. In the meantime, what we're going to do is take a quick break and get a word from our sponsor. In this case, that would be Human Inspiration. Don't go anywhere. Happy Merry Christmas, all the rest, whatever you celebrate or not. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. And we'll see. We might have a skeleton crew out there. I'm not exactly sure. Sometimes on the holiday streams, everybody's kind of gone. So we'll see how this plays. But aiming for a couple hours, and we'll see how it goes after that. But be right back. More Troubled Minds happening in about 1 minute after this. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. Let us continue, shall we? Correction here. I'm not sure. These historical sources are always a little weird. Gordo over on Rumble says St. Nicholas was Greek. Turks invaded and slaughtered everyone. The mythos of St. Nick is not Turkish. Okay, that's cool. I'm not here to teach history, nor am I super familiar with it, but that's the information I have, so we'll start it as the basis anyway. It's actually kind of irrelevant to the story, meaning that we're talking about, in this context, the defiling of our ancestors' graves or tombs, or, sort of digging up the remains of individuals that probably should not be disturbed. Okay. So I was thinking, and as you know, we like to do these wild ideas on this show. I was thinking about Krampus as sort of that living sort of dark mirror archetype of Saint Nick himself. Now, Krampus, of course, is one of those, again, he would be exactly that, sort of that shadow archetype of Saint Nick that supposedly, right, he jingles the bells, except the bells in this case are a warning. You're supposed to, when you hear Krampus's foot, he has one human foot and he has one hoof like a, like Pan or a satyr or something. Very occult-like sort of visage of what Krampus is. But all of these warnings are because he walks around and hits people with a switch. Okay, kids, bad kids. Again, in the exact opposite of what Saint Nick did, which was generous in giving things to people, and especially children, to make them happy, things they didn't have. There's a lot, right? It's complicated, of course. It's a long old history. But the opposite, of course, is Krampus, and he's sort of the demon of Christmas. And it's weird because tracing it back, it seems like it does go back to sort of the pagan roots, the pre-Christian stuff. And it does go back to the satyrs and some of these other things. But long story short, he carries around a bag, like a big bag of, why am I doing this? Let me just read this to you. It's probably better than me rambling through it and butchering the damn thing. So let me read this. I'll just read a little bit of it to you and catch you up. So now we'll talk about this and how it fits. And again, we're talking paranormal a little bit tonight, a little bit Christmas, a little bit Krampus, a little bit archetypes as it fits. But here we go. I'll just read it straight from the thing. Link's going to be in the description if you want to follow along or read ahead of me or whatever. Here we go. Krampus is a figure who transcends the boundaries of time, which is my point tonight. A persistent archetype that it reappears throughout the ages, adapting to the cultural and spiritual context of the people who invoke his name. Originating in the alpine regions of Europe, he is often depicted as a horned goat-like creature with chains, bells, and a sack to carry away misbehaving children, which was my point in bringing up the sack. It wasn't to carry toys in, it was to carry away, basically kidnap, misbehaving children. And what became of them, well, and nobody really knows. But while his presence is now most commonly associated with the Christmas season, Krampus is far older than the holiday itself, bearing traces of pagan deities, ancient rituals, and this archetypal fear, which, like I said, better to read this than ramble through it. To understand Krampus is to recognize him as a being beyond time, one who embodies humanity's universal need to externalize its darker instincts and fears. In pre-Christian traditions, figures resembling Krampus, horned, wild, and tied to the winter solstice, served as symbols of primal chaos and the cycles of life and death. Now, these traditions were deeply rooted in the belief that the world balanced on a delicate interplay of light and dark, order, and, of course, chaos. Krampus, with his menacing visage and punitive role, was not merely a figure of terror, but also a necessary counterpart to the benevolent forces celebrated during Yule, or Yuletide, of course. And so, okay, there we go. That said it way better than I could rambling through it. But the deal is that Krampus is that sort of archetypal inverse of the shadow self. So we're talking about the shadow self of Saint Nicholas in this instance. And so I was thinking, and again, this is a, squint with your mind's eye, but if we're sort of digging up at places that are supposedly the sarcophagi, whatever, because again, multiple bones scattered all over the world, supposedly of Saint Nick himself. Disturbing the dead, does it cause some sort of paranormal backlash, some sort of, right? I don't know, just an idea to start us. And I was thinking about it, not just in terms of, the wild hunt. Yes, exactly. So the Krampus himself is also sort of associated with the wild hunt in some ways. It's strange. It's really strange. And another thing too, well, I don't know, I guess historically it's all over the place. So it's really difficult to say because we only have fragments and whatnot. But anyway, so back to Krampus. So the bizarre part to me is that he's got this bag, right? And instead of bringing toys, he's going to carry children away in this bag. And it kind of really echoes, and it's in this write-up, if you guys do read this, it echoes sort of that Dungeons and Dragons aspect of a bag of holding. Have you seen that, where the bag itself is sort of a portal in some capacity? So we'll get to that later tonight. But anyway, so as Christianity spread across Europe, Krampus's image evolved but did not disappear. He was woven into the tapestry of Christmas celebrations, often as a dark twin to Saint Nicholas. Where Nicholas rewarded the virtuous with gifts and blessings, Krampus punished the wicked, often with his signature birch rods or by whisking them away in his sack. This duality underscored the moral teachings of the time. Goodness would be rewarded, while misdeeds would invite retribution. Yet this partnership was far more than a moral allegory. It hinted at an older, deeper truth about human consciousness, that every act of light casts a shadow. And that's a great place to kind of leave it there. But so basically the questions for tonight is this. I was thinking about it, and if you disturb, and this is sort of a metaphysics, sort of paranormal style question, if you disturb the grave of an ancestor, does it also wake up, or could it possibly wake up its shadow archetype, in this case Krampus, because they just, again, supposedly found, or possibly found, the remains of St. Nicholas. So is it possible that we get a Krampus resurgence in the coming year, or multiple years? I don't know, just the idea to where we begin tonight. And again, Merry Christmas to everybody who celebrates. If not, happy holidays. Hope you at least got a day off or a half day or something. And lots of stuff here to talk about. Lots of wild ideas. We got a little Dungeons and Dragons crossover with the bag of holding. We got a little bit of ancient Greek mythology with the satyrs and the horned occult sort of symbolism with a little Baphomet going on with Krampus himself. A little strange, right? It's a little weird how these themes seem to repeat themselves. And just an update on Santa Claus. He is now in Richmond, Virginia, and in about a minute. So if anybody's out in that neck of the woods, well, make sure the cookies and the milk are out, because you may not get your presents. You may get visited by Krampus instead. But taking your calls tonight if you want to be part of the show, as usual, 702-957-1037. You can click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Like I said, going to try and keep this one a little bit short, a couple hours if possible. So I see James is in there now, so let's just go straight to James. What's up? If you're ready, sir, welcome to Troubled Minds. How are you tonight? And go right ahead.
Yeah, glad to be here. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
Loud and clear. Merry Christmas Eve to you, sir, and welcome. What's on your mind?
Thank you. Same to you. Yeah, I that's a really good question about the remains and the gravesite and everything. It's what's really confusing in a way about that answering that question, or what makes it hard to answer, is there have been reports of sightings of both Santa and Krampus from people over the years, over just any number of years. And throughout time, really. Some reports, that come from more recent years, but they're memories of people when they were children who had a bit more of a surprise than a bit more of an exciting holiday than they planned on, because they saw what appeared to be either something like Krampus or something like Santa Claus. And I'm not even joking there. That these are out there. You can find them on different websites. Reports of sightings of those two figures.
Yeah, that's wild. So I didn't know that, but I would imagine, right? Because we're talking about, we talk about primordial nature spirits, stuff like this, that kind of would fit into these archetypes for sure. So it doesn't really shock me that people would see these things, actual sightings in some capacity. Somebody mentioned in the chat there, OG Skywatch, Santa better watch out over New Jersey. I've seen some memes regarding that too, which is pretty funny. But the drones, right? The drone situation happening over there. Are they setting up a sting to take Santa down in New Jersey? Cross your fingers it doesn't happen. But okay, yeah, lots of stuff there. And I don't know, I think that the sightings make sense because, we're talking sort of Slender Man-esque level of the zeitgeist, right? And Krampus himself does harken back to the ancient Greeks. Again, Pan, the satyr, all the rest of that stuff, and even the esoteric sort of spooky stuff with Baphomet and whatnot. So this is, again, one of those ones that makes me go, okay, is this type of stuff going to become resurgent as a result of maybe meddling with our ancestors' remains, just as part of the question? But yeah, I didn't know that, James. You're teaching me something once again, as per usual. And yeah, fire stuff. Take on this or anything else. Continue. Go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, no, just that I've been listening to a lot of shows over the years, and that's kind of where I heard about these things. But yeah, so I wonder now. What I really wonder too with that is what that will do, if it will do anything to have that these remains sort of examined or moved or whatever. I wonder if that will cause any changes in those reports in years to come. I don't think. I think I'd be very surprised if we get a sudden surge of them all at once. I think it'd be more likely that we would find out about them years from now. From people having experiences, but then not wanting to talk about it right away until maybe they find a place, either a group online or certain friends that are maybe into these things to discuss that kind of a sighting with. I don't know that we'd really see a big surge in sightings in the immediate future, but possibly maybe years from now.
Yeah, and so with that said as well, and sort of bringing back an old archetype here, it's fascinating that when you talk about anybody historically, even myself or whoever, right, common day or whatever, or not common today, modern day, that. You don't really know, let's say, the shadow archetype of Michael Strange, right? Surely it exists. Everybody's got one. And that the shadow self, the subconscious. And so nobody really knows it. It doesn't have like a name. You know what I mean? It's sort of implicit and understood as just part of being human. But in this case, back to the Slender Man aspect of people sort of surging energy into an idea and then sort of manifesting terrible things or even good things, prayer and things like this, Angel's Advocate, as manifesting something and an entity in some cases. But in this particular case, and this is the question for you guys tonight, because everybody tends to know exactly who St. Nicholas's shadow archetype is, and it is Krampus. And so you can't really put a name to it in many cases, like Carl Jung, what was his shadow archetype named, right? But in this case, it's almost as if there could be a surge in this as in a ley line-esque space, right? In a supernatural energy type of thing. I don't know, just throwing an idea out there. I was thinking about it myself earlier, and it just made a little bit of sense that if we're disturbing the bones of the man, are we also sort of agitating his shadow self? In this case, that would be Krampus. Just a question to start. Also, what do you know about Krampus and all the rest of it? And there we go. I think that puts us where we need to be. Hang tight, James. You're welcome to sit as long as you like, as you know. Merry Christmas to you and everybody else out there. Tonight, we're talking the dark mirror of St. Nicholas. I'm thinking about Krampus as a living archetype. And if we go all the way back to disturb the bones of St. Nicholas himself, as this article suggests is happening, is it possible through a paranormal space, through metaphysics, through maybe forces we do not understand, that we awaken Krampus in some way that hasn't been done as of yet? I don't know. Going back to the old ways in terms of old forces and energies and things like this, and it's I don't know, just an intriguing idea to me. Like I said, no truth to be found here, just ideas, just trying to have fun with the season a little bit and be a little bit creative per usual, right? But what are your thoughts on this? What's your take? What do you know about Krampus? And is it possible that if we feed enough energy, enough, let's say, internet juju, or put it on the top of mind, that we sort of amplify Krampus in some capacity, and maybe this starts to become like a Slender Man sort of archetype that is creeping into our minds, our collective subconscious together.